Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Castlevania Legacy of Darkness commentary, where we will hopefully be discussing the game. But who knows? I don't.
Oh, okay. You know what? I just remembered this guy's hair reminds me of the doofus from Final Fantasy VIII. What's his name?
Zell.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's got the idiot hair. I think that's what they call it, right? They call it the idiot hair because he has like the fucking alfalfa spikes on the front.
I think that's supposed to refer to something like sticking out of the middle of your hair. This is more of like a deliberate dude bro like hairstyle going on.
I've never seen a dude bro look like this.
In any case, well, I mean, like anime cool spiky hair. It's supposed to be going in that direction, although it's
got the bulky frame. He's actually only 12 years old.
Anyway, I didn't actually discuss the character we're playing as last part, so we might as well do that now. Reinhardt Schneider. This character's awkward, and part of the reason that this game doesn't fit into canon anymore is that this story was written before Igarashi codified that whole era in between Richter and Julius, where there were no, like, actual Belmonts. And there were reasons for that I guess tie into the 1999 thing, sort of, although it was never, like, super clearly explained. Because they never got around to doing the 1999 thing, goddammit.
I think the 1999 game was as earliest referenced in the first Sorrow game, Aria Sorrow.
Yeah.
I want to say so. So I don't think conceptually that was even a thing around this time of the creation of this game.
Yeah. And Igarashi wasn't the didn't like become the creative lead for the series until I want to say Harmony of Dissonance.
Okay, Harmony of Dissonance is the Game Boy Advance game, not the multiplayer one.
That's the Game Boy Advance game, yeah.
Yes.
Harmony of Despair is the
multiplayer
one.
one.
Okay.
In between Symphony and Dissonance, we got Circle of the Moon, which was by a different team and was deliberately written to be non-canon in the first place. So
yeah.
But then again, so is Rondo of Blood, so I'm not sure if that means it's still non-canon or not.
The Rondo of Blood's canon.
Rondo of Blood's canon, but at the time it was written to not be canon. If that makes any goddamn sense.
What was canon in when Rondo of Blood was created? Because at that point it was just the next Castlevania game after Super Castlevania 4.
I have an axe to grind about that concept because there are people who will swear to the moon that games like Castlevania Legends and stuff break canon. There was no fucking canon at the time.
Yeah, who gave a shit? You know?
Yeah, like seriously, like who did give a shit about Konami?
The only story, I mean...
Oh, well, that's the other Reinhardt. Goodbye, everybody.
If you take Castlevania lore seriously from the 1990s, then Simon Belmont fought Dracula 6 times, you know, so it's like, yeah.
But like, you know, it's a bit wacky if you try to fit something like Castlevania Legends into the modern canon, because that means Alucard is Trevor's father, and that's fucking weird, especially with the Netflix show. Not as weird as Alucard actually being Trevor, though. God damn it.
Wait, Alucard's Trevor?
In the Lords of Shadow timeline, okay?
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about it in the TV show, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that they were standing next to each other.
Or were they?
It's a fucking weird story decision, but in the Lords of Shadow timeline, Trevor Belmont becomes Alucard during Mirror of Fate, and the second game references that as a main plot point. Anyway, this boss is annoying, but it was 10 times as annoying in the original version, because instead of having this camera that rotates nice and smooth around the boss and pulls back when you're near the walls, the camera was fixed by the door you walked in, and it was just sort of stuck there, and you had to deal with this from that angle, and, like, I died so many times. And there was no save point outside the room in the original level either, so you had to go up the whole platforming tower every time you lost to this goddamn boss.
Dark Souls.
Yeah, clearly you just need to know how to kill the boss the first time you do it. Otherwise, it's your own fault.
Anyway, that was a miserable performance, but like I said, this is my semi-blind playthrough. Once you know what to do, this boss is actually, like, embarrassingly easy. The building that you walk out of, the one that this door is affixed to in the corner of the room, you can hide behind that to avoid the flames. So the easy way to defeat this boss is to Get one of the dragons to its second phase so that it breathes like streams of fire at you, and then just pop in and out of cover to hit it. It's a little harder with Reinhardt because you have a whip instead of a homing projectile. Carrie makes this boss an absolute joke, and frankly, so does Cornell.
So fuck you, Reinhardt. Whip having motherfucker.
Slight misconception about this game. People consider Carrie the easy mode compared to Reinhardt, but in fact, they both have different strengths. Carrie is absolutely god-awful at close to mid-range, because to get maximum damage, you need to take time to charge her magic bolts. So if you can get her to if you can get her at a distance, she can make mincemeat of enemies with like very little danger to the player. But enemies that get up straight in your face are kind of miserable to fight as her, until you realize that she also has those ring blades, and they're actually really good, and you should use them. That took me a playthrough and a half to figure out.
So Reinhardt is the Richter to what was the girl's name again?
Carrie. Yeah,
Carrie.
It's kind of like a Richter Maria situation.
Yeah.
Except the developers don't play the girl for laughs this time, which is nice.
Okay.
But like, okay, so Reinhardt's main advantage is that
Fuck
he can...
you, Reinhardt. I don't even remember your name. You're Richter now.
Reinhardt's main advantage is that he can do a lot of damage very quickly at close range. In fact, he actually received a bit of a buff in Legacy of Darkness, where his secondary weapon, the sword, is actually a lot faster than it was in Vanilla 64. I should use it more often than I do, but I didn't really get used to using the secondary weapon as a main method of attack until the Cornell and Carrie playthroughs. So I used the whip in situations where I really should be using the sword. And I apologize for that, Castlevania 64 aficionados, but, you know, I'm the guy who forgot that the Mako in Mass Effect had a fucking cannon on it. So this is the least of my sins. I'm actually really glad
that Mass Effect commentary feels like a pipe dream. I'm not even sure if we did it or not.
I actually did the same goddamn thing during my practice run as Carrie. I forgot she had a charge attack.
Oh, okay.
So
I thought you were talking about the moon buggy again. It's like, yeah, she also has a moon buggy.
Haven't we all done that, though? There are definitely, like, games I've played where somebody has been, like, where, like, I watch somebody else play and they do this move, and it's like, you can do that? And they're like, yeah, that's how you're supposed to play the game. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, but Carrie has a charging homing bolt that she can fire from her hands, and it's really good. She is the second best Mega Man character that Konami has ever designed. So
okay, hold on. Who's the best Mega Man character Konami has ever designed?
Kid Dracula.
I guess.
Like, so now when you say Mega Man, what aspect of Mega Man are you referring to?
Jump and shoot.
Oh, just jump and shoot. Okay, never mind. Is that all it takes?
Anyway, I'm going...
What, you think Mega Man, not Contra? That's Konami.
No, Contra's like...
Contra's jump and shoot.
Contra's more spray and pray, I feel.
Yeah. Platforming jump and shoot as opposed to just jump and shoot and try not to get hit at all. I actually, really want to get into Contra, but it's, a style of game that I have a really hard time gelling with. Anyway, I'm going the wrong direction right now.
Let's talk about Contra. You should play Contra. Play it with a friend.
I should have... Actually, I want to call attention to something. As I was, going the wrong way, I noticed that there were bone skeletons on the ceiling. They accounted for you going the wrong way and spawned in specific enemies for that instance, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, I thought for a second you were going to say, a Lakitu from Mario Kart shows up with the wrong way symbol to tell you to go backwards.
Anyway, what I really should have done is jump down the middle passage that opened up after I beat the boss, which is the quick way to get back down once you get up the two towers. But I didn't notice that the wall had opened while I was actually playing. So yeah, I mean, we're still gonna go that way after the second tower, but I'm going the wrong way. Shame. Ow. Fucking bone towers.
The light whip looks really cool, though. Like, I actually do fuck with the aesthetic of that.
Oh, yeah. The light whip is great. Actually, one of the cool things about 64 is that it takes a lot of cues from Bloodlines. You know, the gems instead of the hearts.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of, the gems, and the final whip upgrade you got in that game was also a light whip, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, energy whip.
I have to say, I think that the gems is just an unequivocal improvement from hearts.
Yeah,
I
agree.
understand that it's been that way since the original, but I'm sorry. You're fighting every other video game here by having hearts not be health.
The other 3D Castlevania games just kind of compromised by making them heart-shaped gems, which I thought was fun. Anyway, we are about to, like, as we go up the second tower, we are about to encounter the main stumbling block that the developers throw into your path regarding the day-night cycle. Moon cards and sun cards. And the doors that correspond to them. There are doors that can only open when it is daytime or nighttime. And if it's not the correct time of day, you have to use a sun or moon card to jump it to the correct time of day. The thing is that this actually advances time. So if you use the day and night cycle cards too frequently, you can lock yourself into the bad ending without realizing it.
I mean, I guess it's better than sitting there and waiting for the time to pass. But like, what's the point of?
Oh no! Oh no! Ah!
Shine Reinhardt.
Okay, so I want to talk about that game over screen for a moment. It makes no goddamn sense anymore.
Yeah, there's just a violin there.
So the thing is, Castlevania 64 Vanilla started with the one thing that it has over Legacy of Darkness, which is that fucking artistic title screen with Malice playing his violin as he fades in from the view of the castle. And it's like a slow violin remix of Divine Bloodlines, and it's beautiful. Okay? That title screen should have remained in this game, but it didn't.
Oh, is it not in Legacy of Darkness? That sucks.
It's not in Legacy of Darkness, no. You get that, like, woman running from the screen, and then just like a generic little like,
help me.
Yeah, and then it just fades into a view of the castle. The violin is not there. But the violin only ever appeared in the title screen. It was never in the main game. So showing the violin on the game over screen makes no goddamn sense, because the violin has never appeared anywhere else in the game. What is the violin doing here, I ask? Well, it's just there because they used the same game over screen they had in the original game. Oh well. Anyway, so, like, yeah, there are no game overs. Well, there are no, like, lives, I should say.
Good.
This platform tricked me.
Oh, there's fall damage? Oh, damn.
There's fall damage. You have to fall a pretty big distance to get significant fall damage, though. But yeah, there are a lot of places in this game where there are no bottomless pits, and the chief danger is just losing progress and a little bit of health along the way. This is one of the few bottomless pit platforming sections in the game, actually. And they made it a lot easier in Legacy of Darkness, thankfully, because these platforming towers used to have narrower platforms and Medusa heads. They got one of the main changes they made between the two versions is to get rid of most of the Medusa heads, because they were one of the more awkward enemy inclusions. And I mean, they're still in here, but they're like barely there anymore.
Yeah, I feel like a Medusa head in 3D sounds obnoxious, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
So I know you were kind of getting into it earlier in the first part, but would you just consider just Legacy of Darkness to be a marked improvement in every sense of the words? Like, is there no reason to go back to 64?
I would go back to 64 to experience the first 5 minutes. But that's about all I can, like, really say, because in terms of gameplay and just going through the levels, this version is way better, especially in the back half. And I'll get into that as we reach certain levels, like the Tower of Execution. Dear God.
That sounds like a heavy metal song.
The level looks like a heavy metal song, to be honest.
It sounds like a hardcore like obstacle course in the Legends of the Hidden Temple.
The Tower of Execution.
Like, you could start in the Tower of Execution. Like, no, I don't want to go there. People
well,
die
then
there.
the frickin' silver monkeys are gonna win again, John.
Wait, hold on. Monkeys? Plural?
No, wait, no. What's this? The purple snakes? Is that what
The silver snakes.
The
Silver
silver
snakes.
snakes.
Sorry.
Yeah, the silver monkey is the thing that you put together in the temple. And you made me think that they are sentient and they multiplied and we're all screwed.
Have you ever seen Wizard of Oz?
Yes.
Oh yeah, well, that's what they turn into.
The
when
what,
they
the flying
get their
monkeys?
Yeah, when they reach their final form.
Oh, I see. I always thought the flying monkeys are just like henchmen that the witch made.
Yeah, that's not as interesting.
Anyway, one thing that was downgraded from the original release is that there were a few, I stress a few scenes in the Carrie and Reinhardt campaigns that had voice acting. Namely, the opening text crawl and this scene right here. The voice acting has been removed from Carrie and Reinhardt's in favor of using that same amount of space for the small amounts of voice acting in Cornell's story, which are basically in the same places, the opening crawl and opening cutscenes. The game is mostly non-voiced either way, though, so you don't really feel that change as much as you probably should. Also, I don't like Dracula's voice here, and I mean, like, I like it less than his Symphony of the Night version, where he at least had personality, even if it was Narm Charm. This guy just has a distorted, generic evil voice.
This guy looks like an angry landlord. It's not Dracula.
Well, I mean, this is what Dracula is supposed to look like, apparently, in this game, but this is jumping ahead to the plot twist. This isn't actually Dracula.
Well, yeah, because he just said all who oppose the Dark Lord must die. I was like, I don't think he'd ever refer to himself in the third person.
Well, I mean, he's pretending to be Dracula, but he's kind of out of character in his dialogue writing because he's not Dracula. He's a guy disguised as Dracula to hide where the real Dracula is at the moment. But, like, yeah. He has some really cheesy lines, which I always found, like, a really amusing element of Galaiz's character. Like, he just thinks Dracula would talk like that.
I mean, to be fair,
well, I mean, Dracula has a bit more of a philosophical edge to him when he when he
very
speaks in
theatrical.
dialogue. I mean, it wasn't very well established at this point because Rondo of Blood was literally the only example we had of him actually saying anything. But, you know.
Well, it goes with the Dracula from the Bram Stoker novel because Dracula in that is, has a gentlemanly air to him where he, you have him speak to, oh God, what's his name? Fucking
Jonathan Harker?
Harker, loser. Where he's very polite. He's got this aristocratic castle. He's kind of like that old money kind of vibe. So it makes sense that he would kind of have a very like theatrical vibe to him when you think about the way he's portrayed in the book. Not that Castlevania has ever really cared too much about how the book portrays anything. Really, except for like that one time where they reference random cowboy dude who's in the book for no reason.
Well, the entire Morris line comes from Quincy Morris, yeah.
Yeah, but Quincy Morris literally does nothing in the Dracula book. He dies at the end and is a cowboy.
He dies at the end in the process of being one of the people who kills Dracula.
He helped.
That's his claim to fame, that he was the one who struck the finishing blow against Dracula with his Bowie knife. With his Bowie knife, not a stake or a whip, Castlevania. God damn it.
Yeah, well, that's why you can throw knives in Castlevania, is because
Simon Belmont learned how to kill a knife, learned how to throw knives from Quincy Morris, and then traveled back in time to throw knives at Dracula in the past.
I mean, time travel is a thing in Castlevania, so I guess it's not that out there.
Anyway, so the first few levels have been predominantly combat and platforming. The Stage 4, which was Stage 3 in the original game, is a much more Resident Evil style of level, which I kind of dig. It's not so non-linear, at least not as Reinhardt and Carrie, that you can really get lost in it, but it has a nice mood. It's also one of the only places in the game where the game's story can kind of be seen peeking through, because the villa is not like the castle, but like a nobleman's estate that's sort of built into the castle. And this villa belongs to the character who is disguising himself as Dracula right now. But before we can do that, just to hammer the Resident Evil reference home, we have to deal with a bunch of monster dogs that outside the gates of the mansion. They're Cerberuses.
Cerberus?
Like the dog bioweapon was called Cerberus, so we're fighting Cerberuses. Do you get it? Do you get where our influences have come from?
Actually, what is the plural for Cerberus?
Anyway, these monsters are like not too difficult to fight as Reinhardt because you can whip pretty fast and do a lot of damage that way. But as Carrie, it took some doing to figure out how to fight them effectively because her maximum damage requires a lot more charge time for her shots. So the trick to fighting the Cerberuses as Carrie is counterintuitively to not use your main attack and to focus instead on your sidearm and sub-weapons.
Speaking of Resident Evil, though, and I'm not sure if this game does it or not, but at a glance, it looks like it didn't. You were at low health there, and you were picking up that roast chicken or roast beef.
Yeah.
And you could not get the benefits immediately, as opposed to Resident Evil, which will give you the option to use it then and there, or just put it in your item storage, because otherwise you could have easily died there.
Oh yeah, I don't think using items on pickup was a thing that was added to Resident Evil until sequels. So Resident Evil might not have even done that by this point. I'm not sure.
I can't remember off the top of my head either. But either way, I wish this game gave you the option to use an item right then and there, so that you don't have to waste time pausing the game.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice. Although most of the time, you don't need it because there is no inventory limit here. That was half the reason they added that to Resident Evil, because you could find a healing herb on the ground and not be able to get any benefit from it because you were full up on ammo.
I can't put the herb in my mouth.
Anyway, I actually really lucked out there because that pillar, it rises between midnight and 1 a.m. every day. And then it goes back into the fountain, and the only time you can get those items is at midnight to 1 p.m. This will be very important for a cutscene we will be viewing later, but I lucked out majorly on this run because there is a very annoying thing that you need to do on your way through the De Rey Villa that requires you to set the time to the specific hours between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. Now, this is a problem, because the Sun card sets the time to exactly 6 a.m., which is exactly too late to trigger the cutscene. However, the Moon card sets it to 6 p.m., which is the opposite side of the clock. So, either way, you have to wait a long-ass amount of time to get this cutscene to trigger. And I think that getting the Rosa cutscene in this level to trigger is the reason half the players of the original Castlevania 64 ended up with the bad ending on their first run through. It's annoying. And they fix it as early as Cornell's run through this level, because he also has something that you need to trigger at a specific time in the same room even, but it's just set to 6 a.m., so you can just use a Sun card. Also, can you tell we're taking our influence from horror games? As if the Cerberus outside wasn't enough of a lampshade.
Some sort of Batman?
Man-Bat?
No, Man-Bat's that Ryan. Way too derivative. That's Batman.
Okay, so in this level we start fighting vampires as regular enemies.
That's interesting, because this is one of the only Castlevania games to do that, from what I remember.
Now, they can grab onto you and inflict you with vampirism, which is actually a really neat status effect. Slightly undermined by how easy it is to get the purifying items to cure it. But when you are struck with vampirism, you turn purple. You can no longer heal with regular healing items. You can't use your main weapon, the vampire killer whip or the magic bolts. but you can use your sidearm and I think your sub weapons. Not sure. And when the clock strikes midnight, it's game over because the curse takes over, and you get this kind of chilling close up to your character, like going full vampire mode with fangs and everything. It's cool. You'll never see it though, because purifying items are like way overabundant.
They're all over the place. That's very interesting. A very interesting debuff though.
Yeah. They actually upped the item placement drop rate for purifying and cure ampoules in Legacy of Darkness. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's like, maybe you're more likely to actually have to suffer vampirism in the hard mode, because there is a hard mode when you beat the game, and item placements are remixed, bosses have more health, that sort of thing. Anyway, hello Rosa, how are you doing? This character appears exactly one time in Carrie's story and then just disappears off the face of the game. But here, she's actually like the main side character for Reinhardt's story.
The girl that waters the roses is named Rosa.
And you have to see this. Oh, she's watering with blood.
They're actually white roses, as she said. The reason they're red is because she's watering them with blood. Cool detail, though. Since Cornell's story is a prequel, when you reach this room in his story, they're actually white. So, yeah. She wasn't lying. Kind of creepy. I'm not sure that's actually what watering roses with blood would do, though.
How will we find out?
Well, anyway, Rosa being the main character, the main side character from Reinhardt's story. This is actually another case where Resident Evil 1's influence shines through on Castlevania 64. Both campaigns have like the same main thrust of the story, but both characters go through some unique interactions with their own characters throughout the game. And Carrie and Reinhardt also have significantly different second halves in terms of the stages they go through and the bosses they fight. So if you're wondering why I'm doing both playthroughs, there's your answer. They're different campaigns. It's something that I don't hear mention of when I like watch Castlevania 64 playthroughs. It's like they'll either play as Carrie because it's easier, or they'll play as Reinhardt because it feels more Castlevania, and then they won't comment on the other character at all. But you have two campaigns with different stages. It's replay value, people. Come on.
Content.
I mean, I think that might just be a difference in mindset. Like, I think it's much more common to just do one playthrough of a game today versus if you bought this game back in 1990 when it came out, like, this was the game you had, so you wanted to play it over and over and over again. So having different characters added so much to the experience.
Yeah. They also play substantially differently once you figure out how to use them effectively. So, I think it's cool in that sense too. Fighting enemies as Reinhardt feels a lot different than fighting enemies as Carrie or Cornell. And Cornell has his werewolf transformation, which is cool. Anyway, this fucking idiot in here, I assume he's a Van Helsing reference, like, you know, an old guy who fights vampires with knowledge rather than combat skill, but
you see, but Hugh Jackman Van Helsing could do both. He had knowledge and combat.
Get a load of this fucking tool.
What the fuck?
He's covered
I don't think he's got enough crosses.
This is Charlie Vincent. He is the key to the good and bad endings. If you reach Dracula too slowly, the real Dracula, I think the real Dracula anyway, turns him into a vampire, and you have to fight him as a vampire before you fight Dracula. And then the real Dracula in disguise creeps up to you after you fight fake Dracula and is like, "Oh, did you defeat Dracula? Are we safe now?" And you leave the castle with the fake Dracula, and you get the two bad endings from that. So
you see, I would have liked if the instant he became a vampire, he burst into flames because he's surrounded by so many fucking crosses.
That would be very funny, yes. But yeah, so Charlie Vincent here is this kind of like egotistical professional vampire hunter. So, like, he talks down to you, which, to be fair, when you're playing as Carrie, is a rational response. She is a little girl.
Yeah.
But, you know, like, even Richter Belmont was guilty of talking down to her before she sicked a fucking dragon on him, but that is my favorite change in Dracula X Chronicles. Them playing Maria a little bit more straight rather than for laughs. But she still sicks a fucking dragon on Richter.
Dracula X, that's the SNES port of Rondo of Blood,
Dracula
right?
X Chronicles is the
Oh,
PSP
that's the
remake.
PSP version. Okay.
Yes. And in that version, they play Maria a little bit more seriously than she's played in the original version. In the original version, she's played for laughs.
She's the gag character, yeah.
She's the gag character. They play her a little bit more seriously in Dracula X Chronicles, and her Netflix version in Nocturne takes a lot of influence from how that game portrayed her, which I like. In fact, I think it's straight up just like takes her character design from Dracula X Chronicles instead of her old school dress. Anyway,
yeah, well, that's for Richter too. But yeah, go ahead.
I lucked out twice with Charlie Vincent, too, because, like, okay, so as I said, you have to trigger the Rosa cutscene at 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., right? During those hours, you then have to talk to Charlie Vincent to get a key from him. You can't get the key from Charlie Vincent until you trigger the Rosa cutscene. But during the hours of 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., Charlie Vincent is in bed. He is actually sleeping in the evil vampire mansion. I suppose he thinks he's safe because of all those crosses he's covered himself with.
It's gotta be mad uncomfortable, though.
So you can't talk to him like immediately after you trigger the Rosa cutscene, unless you trigger it like very close to the time where it would have cut off. Storeroom key, right next to the locked door. Little redundant, but whatever. So, just to emphasize how little some people understand this fucking game, one of the walkthroughs that I consulted while I was like doing my practice runs for Carrie and Cornell, damn it, I was too close to the cross. I wanted to keep the holy water.
Well, they need to watch that walkthrough more.
Anyway, over here in the storeroom, there's a statue that, when you examine it, gives you a purifying item for curing vampirism. That was true even in the original game. The guide I consulted said that the statue purifies you every time you touch it. And I'm just like, you're writing guides and you're paying that little attention. Come on. And this wasn't like a GameFAQs guide. This was like an IGN guide on like the IGN website. You would expect them to put a little bit more work into it.
I mean, this was probably done back when the game first came out, so standards were different back then than they are now, to be fair.
But it doesn't matter, 'cause it's 3D and it's cool.
Yeah.
Let's see Symphony of the Night do this. They fucking fall off a cliff.
One of the like inconsequential changes they made to the levels is that like the positioning of the save point in this room is like off to the side rather than in the center, so you actually think to check the statue now. Ugh.